back with the Arts Commission. We have Jen Cole with us. She's brought a couple of folks with her that she will introduce here in a second. We are also joined by Councilmember John Cooper and Councilmember Nancy Van Rees in the back. I just want to say that it's important to note that over the next series of days, we're going to hear more requests for funds than we'll actually have revenue to allocate. So after we hear all these conversations, we'll be in a position to best allocate the dollars effectively and efficiently for Davidson County taxpayers. So we appreciate that you are here. I'm going to turn it over to you, Jen, so you can talk a little bit about your budget and introduce your folks.
Sure. To my right is Ian Myers, our Finance and Administration Director, and to my left is our Board Chair, Clay Haynes. And I'm going to let Clay actually kick it off with some remarks. And
Absolutely.
Then turn it over
so,
to you.
Mayor, thank you so much.
Sure.
I think there are two very high-level points that I want to make about this budget that's before you. One is that we, as a board, have pushed Jen and our staff to work very hard to align our budget with greater metro priorities. And so one of the things that I think that you're going to see in here is that we have art investment in transportation, in judicial reform, in libraries, in our neighborhoods. And, you know, when I look at this budget, I really see it touching so many different aspects of Davidson County. The second big thing that I would point out to you is if you think about the funding arts spectrum, on one side we have the small micro grants at $4,500 and less with Thrive, and on the other we have the large kind of pieces of cultural furniture. And what this budget does is it helps to fill in a lot of that gap in a way that provides cultural equity across Davidson County. So
That's a perfect frame. I'm happy to talk, but I'm more happy to answer your questions.
Sure. So let's just go straight to what your operating capital budget requests are.
Sure.
I think that would be helpful to walk us through. You've got a request for a half of a FTE that would help with community and economic development, equity and inclusion in jobs. Why don't you talk a little bit?
I have a full FTE request. Yeah.
I just have it down as a 0.5.
2.5 actually.
I've got a 0.5.
I have 2.5 FTE requests.
Okay, well, 349,000 looked like a lot for a half-time person,
Right.
but maybe you can walk me through that now.
From an employment standpoint, I
was-
have two FTE requests. So one, and the highest priority is a community engagement manager who could assist us in all of our community input we have for public art and for other programs, as well as our marketing and PR. The other is a program coordinator, so a lower level person who can assist us with our grants management, particularly this cultural festival fund, which we've requested, and some of the increased admin associated with Opportunity Now and some of our other programming. And then the other is a reallocation of an existing staff person from the Percent for Art Fund to the operating budget so that that person can work on temporary art and neighborhood projects that are disallowed under percent regs. So those are our employment requests.
Got it. But you also have some program dollars in there, so talk about those. So
the two largest priorities in this area are really to do exactly what Clay talked about, so sort of fill in that gap in the middle. So the budget last year funded our Thrive Microfund program and $50,000 in temporary art projects. We've basically asked under the neighborhood projects bucket that you see there an increase in both of those. We're already out of Thrive dollars this far into the fiscal year, so we've asked for additional money there. And then our new public art plan, which is up for public comment right now, calls for a significant changing and shifting of the kinds of projects we fund in public art, not just permanently sited things like we have historically done, but neighborhood residencies, community studios, and temporary funds. So there's a request for $225,000 asking for more funding in those spaces. And then we've asked for a significant increase in our grants funding. I'd like to say related to that, our grants funding simply hasn't kept track of and pace with our population increase. So we've had a 25% increase in requests for grants in the last 5 years. And so actually our per capita investment in arts and culture grants is actually going down, not up because of population. And just for frame of reference, our nearest peer cities, just in the grants pool alone, not in the other cultural spend that we've requested, are outspending us almost 3 to 1. So Austin is investing more than $12 million a year just in grants. The city of Seattle, who has about the same population as we do, is also about $9 million. So We believe the requests, both in sort of staff capacity and direct programs, really are about meeting demand and in the community. And the last piece that is there that I'll talk about is brand new, is a cultural festival fund. We have identified, particularly through the equity lens, that one of the things that's really missing, particularly at the neighborhood level and particularly with organizations serving communities of color, is that often people activate and engage in culture at the neighborhood level through festival, and that's often sort of the first place people kind of connect with arts and culture, and that we don't really have a mechanism in the city to fund sort of small festivals, not the things that the Convention Bureau would fund, which are sort of more economic development engines, but something that we think are really neighborhood and cultural equity engines. And so we're seeking some small amount of money, $30,000, to initiate a cultural festivals fund, which would really be earmarked towards those smaller, emergent, neighborhood-based festivals, which we think have an economic impact at the neighborhood level, but probably more of an equity and cultural access input. We've talked significantly with your team, your event management team about this, and with parks, and we think it's a good opportunity also to activate underactivated parks, particularly outside of the urban core.
And what I would be interested in is, with that fund, is if you look at the other delineations that we've got as far as the promise zones, where we've got underserved populations for a lot of equity lenses.
Yep.
Okay.
And actually, I would say to the promise zone thing, we're very aware of the promise zones,
Right,
and
I know
actually
you
a
are.
lot of the projects that we are earmarking are looking at that. The other thing you'll see in the capital budget is that we have, to your point about promise zones and sort of neighborhood impact, is you'll see placeholders in the public art budget request that are really placeholders in these neighborhoods, in Madison, in North Nashville, in Southeast, and we've left those there to work with with various departments and your administration to identify what are the neighborhood-centric public art investments we really need to make. Sometimes those are known in the capital budget, sometimes they're not. So for example, in Southeast right now, we're working on the Nolensville corridor with MTA and Casa Azafran to sort of look at what are the transit integrated projects that might go there. But we've put the placeholder there to sort of say, we want to invest in this neighborhood, and we're kind of looking at the emergent opportunities to do that.
So your grant funding is, it looks like it's $177,000 of total funding. How much of your comes from your grants?
Those are external grants.
Right, that comes to you.
Right. So
Right.
of the $177,000, that is reflected in 3 grants, 2 from the state. One is for operating funds, which we've applied for and we expect to get some level of funding this year, where we won't know for several more months. A pass-through, which is a re-granting that we do for small neighborhood grants, which we've also applied for and is going through council now. And then a national endowment grant, which will wind down this year, which we won't, it's non-recurring.
So that this will be the last year we get the national endowment.
That specific national endowment grant. We have a second national endowment grant that's under review right now, and we hopefully will know within the next 6 weeks whether those funds will be released or not.
I think, though, that's a good time to mention that
Yes.
we know that the funding at the federal
Right.
level is extremely uncertain.
Exactly.
And, I think, and a lot of that's going to fall to organizations like the Metro Arts Commission to really step up and step forward. And, one point that I would make on that front is that next year when we're looking at our grants budget, we think that there's 16, is that right, new organizations that are going to be eligible for grants funding. And, if our budget remains the same, then that really means that we're going to have be looking at some cuts to existing organizations. Those are very difficult choices to put, as commissioners, to try to figure out how to allocate that same pool of resources to a greater number of organizations. And I think that 16 really represents, Nashville's growing population. It's a great thing to have these new cultural arts and equity organizations that are applying. But if we can't fund them properly, I think it's going to, we're going to have some tough choices as a commission next year.
Right, and some of those organizations are small and medium-sized organizations serving very culturally specific groups or neighborhood populations, and some of them are like the National Museum of African American Music and Oz, who are serving a much more sort of citywide, both resident and tourist population. And, for us to be a cutting-edge global city, sort of funding high-level quality stuff is good. Back to the National Endowment, the thing I would say is the National Endowment invested $2.1 million in Davidson County over the last 2 years. If there is a major wind down of the endowment or a repositioning of the endowment in some kind of way, the impact is really going to be on the ability of organizations to do new work. So a lot of that is funding new things, either artist grants and residencies, or individual organizations. Several of the last Grammy-winning symphonies and other kinds of things that we've done have been partially funded by the National Endowment. So I think it really goes to sort of cutting the innovation space. And I do think Clay is right. In addition to just the ongoing operations, one of the big inputs of the endowment is sort of funding innovation. And if that's not there, then we're going to suffer. So.
Well, I guess the heartening news is that the majority of your budget does not come from Penny A.
Correct, and nor has it ever. And I am going to the Hill next week to talk to Congress about that.
Good. Talia.
I just want to make sure, Jen, that you take a moment and address the last bullet on your sheet, because you all did do a reallocation within your budget to shift some priorities to some of the things that the mayor
Yes.
is wanting to accomplish.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that's worth noting.
Thank you for that. So we had operated an Arttober Nashville, which is a month-long art celebration, for many years. When we were doing our strategic plan and a variety of other things, we identified that cost-benefit analysis was better to reallocate that staff person's time to some of the mayor's priorities, including our juvenile justice partnership with Judge Callaway,
Great.
which you funded through a PIP,
Yep.
and our Opportunity Now alignment. So we've wound down that program and kind of closed it out this year. We're not doing Arttober Nashville anymore, to make time for that. So it's
Great.
really, you're not going to see it as a budget savings as much as a reallocation of a fairly
is
significant
what we
amount of
wanted.
staff time. And I have to say, I'm super excited about our Opportunity Now partnerships.
Great.
We have 7 of them, 3 in North Nashville, 2 in Southeast Nashville, and 1 in East Nashville,
Thank
all
you.
focused at young people in emergent art careers. Everything
Yay.
from
That's so
public
cool.
art apprenticeships to music production, and we're really excited about
Well, it's a great thing. So thank you all for stepping up and making that reallocation. You're only the second department that has come before us that has taken that challenge. So we appreciate that. Rich.
Just curious, in your capital improvement request, you've identified the various areas of town where you're looking at arts projects. And so these are, it's always kind of there's never enough projects, never enough areas, never enough projects to get money to serve all areas of town. And obviously, this has been something the council especially has been interested in historically. And so it looks to me that, so the $1.9 million that's talked about here, that's available money. Does that make sense? I'm looking
yes,
at,
yes,
that's stuff that
encumbered,
from previous issued bonds that
Correct.
you get your percent from and all
Exactly.
that. And so this is sort of laying out for the world that this is where this money would go in the project.
Yes,
And you may have done this in this much detail before, but I don't remember ever seeing it in this much detail, and I think it's great.
Thank you.
I think
it's
it's
good.
what the council's asking for in terms of transparency, in terms of where the money's going, and not all of it downtown, not all of it in one area of town, but spread out. And I think this is a great smorgasbord of the city, so to speak. So I think it's good. I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly.
Absolutely. And if I could just talk about 2 things related to capital to kind of give some more texture to that. So Madison is a good example where with the community center, we have put forward a percent project allocation. Something has happened in the last 6 weeks in sort of talking with parks as related to their plan to play plan, trying to do some alignment where the old community center is going to be underactivated during construction. We have, and this goes to this new funding request for more money for temporary art. We have been able to identify an opportunity to embed a resident artist in that old community center all summer long, who will do activation with kids and seniors, resulting in a permanent project. So this goes to sort of that new project type example that we need, and we're going to
Great.
take it to the commission on Thursday, and hopefully they'll vote on it. But we just sort of want to show that
Do I need to
it's
lobby
not
your
all
chair for
it's
your
not
behalf,
always
or-
sculptures that we're talking about, but there are these
Right.
emergent opportunities for us to work with other departments that sometimes we can't plan for 18 months in advance, and we want to sort of give space for that. The other thing I want to note in capital is that there are 2 planning things that are important. One is to do an audit of the collection, including not just Metro Arts' collection, but all the art Metro owns in other departments,
Right.
to put in a database so that we actually know its status, and then we can come back to you with a recommendation on funding recurrent maintenance. It is a continual problem, and we feel like we're best positioned to sort of do that, and the other departments have agreed.
Great.
And the other is up for a portable collection, and so our public art plan recommends that we do a sort of work with general services to do an acquisition of local artist work to be installed in metro buildings. So it's a jobs and equity thing. And so we will be moving forward sometime in the fiscal year to do and do recurrent purchases of existing artwork versus sort of commissioning something from the ground up.
Nice.
And then the last, which I think you'll be excited because you said transit.
Yeah.
So we heard you. One of the things in our plan is actually to work with all the infrastructure departments to develop a toolkit, an infrastructure art toolkit, which would create design standards for the kinds of art that we would approve in transit projects. So right now, if a city council member wants an art integrated project, they come and we manage everything as a one-off. This will allow us to work with MTA and Public Works to create a design toolkit that says, this is what an art crosswalk would look like. This is what an art shelter would look like, which would allow a neighborhood association to
then just take it and
exactly,
to run
so
with
that
it.
everything doesn't have to be managed kind of
Like one-offs.
one-off, that we've actually done it and agreed upon it. So I just wanted to say that because transit.
Anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate you.
Mayor, thank
Appreciate
you
you
for
all
your
coming
time.
down. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Good stuff.